जननं काले नाट्यमे भविष्यति विश्रान्ति जननं काले नाट्यमे भविष्यति.
Doctor, were you sharing the video?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
It is not screen share aayitilla, no?
Okay. I'll do it.
Yeah. Thank you, doctor.
It says screen sharing is invalid. What is it?
It should work, doctor. Share screen tare work avunille.
Yeah, I share the screen. Okay, I'm doing it.
It's working, doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, those who are listening. Okay. Is it okay now?
Perfect, doctor.
तपस्विना तपस्विना विश्रान्ति जननं काले नाट्यमे भविष्यति विश्रान्ति जननं काले नाट्यमे भविष्यति.
Was it all right?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So, namaskaram to all. Welcome to Sopana Chitram or Chitra Sopanam. Thank you for the introduction. You didn't have to gasp so much. You could have just said one of our members and well-wishers is coming to talk with you. That would have been enough. If you give big places and pedestals, it's difficult to keep sure that we don't fall off. Anyway, thank you for the wonderful introduction, and I'm pleased. Last time I came in during the 5-day seminar, I enjoyed it. I spoke about Natya Shastra and the Chitrakala. This time we are going over to a slightly different topic, neuro, aesthetic and introduction. And you would have listened to Rajkumar Bharati's melodious voice, rendering a sloka from the Natya Shastra's first chapter. It says precisely a slight detailing of what our Veda says and what Sir Pablo Picasso has said. The soul here, of course, we cannot see it, though people agree and disagree on it. But very close to that, we can go to the mind. And if you want to get a structure for the mind, the only place you can search for is to break open the skull and get into what is called the brain. And if you open that and see the brain, it is not at all very, very interesting. There is no aesthetic appeal for that. It looks like just a toothpaste, few tubes of toothpaste, all put into a big bony pot. That is all where we can look into. Thanks to all the great scholars, scientists, and researchers who have delved deep into the study of brain. And much more than that, without any of these gadgets that we know of today, our great visionaries, the great rishis, through the Veda expounded the intricacies of nature at the macro and the micro levels. So, Natya leads one out of darkness, removes even evil thoughts, thus turns the soul ever pure. This is not written like this. I just made an abstract of what the Vedas speak about, how Vedas can cure the mind and the body, which almost runs parallel to what the great artist Pablo Picasso has said. So, without much exaggeration on that, I'm just telling you a brief meaning of what that prayer song was like. Dukhartanam Samartanam Shokartanam Tapasvinam Vishranti Jananam Kale Natyamedad Bhavishyati. If there are people who are not aware of Sanskrit like me, I'm just telling you the meaning. There may be people who experience deep pathos at heart because of separation from the dear and near ones, or those who are affected by something like a disease, poverty. So, not that there may be people who are tired because of physical labor, and even the great rishis who go through years and years of penance, that is tapas, even to them, Natya gives peace as and when required, or that which gives peace as and when required to anyone must be called Natya. Now, how exactly Natya can provide this sort of a solace is something that our more recent scientists have probed into. While the rishis did come out with their wisdom, we do not know what gadgets they used or if they had the gadgets built in inside. They observed nature without any classification of physicist, chemist, biologist, doctor, engineer, space scientist, black hole theory expert, etc. Nothing. They just went through and gave us all the wisdom. And if we don't take it, it is not their mistake. That's what always a teacher makes right in the beginning, right in the commencement of any discussion or any class. I personally don't prefer to say class, we say discussion. Even with the school students and college students, I should tell them we are discussing. That is all. Okay. So with that, we go over to the next slide. Please tell me, panelists, if there are any problems anytime. I will be trying to correct it.
Sure,
So the
doctor.
second slide, I'm just telling you what exactly we are about to do today. The contents of the session. We have to know neuroscience. There may be doctors, neurology experts, etc. watching this. This is not for them. It is for people like me and my friends who are in the same boat. Okay. So neuroscience, what is aesthesia and what is anesthesia? We will see. Then neuroaesthetics. What is neuroaesthetic? The definition as given by the lead scientist. We will see who it is. Then comes Natya Shastra and neuroaesthetics. When you read through neuroaesthetics, and if you know what this Natya Shastra is, know meaning what it is trying to tell us and what we have understood. Or if you have understood Natya Shastra to the basic level, and if you listen to what is the neuroaesthetic is telling us, they are not different at all. When you know both, the results have to come out when you practice the Natya tenets into practice. That is what I would put it more precisely as. Then, even Natya Shastra says and neuroaesthetic says, observing arts also become beneficial. There we speak about a very small theory, the mirror neurons. I'm only introducing certain parts of neuroaesthetics because it is an emerging, evolving branch of neurobiology. We'll see what it is. Now we'll also see some contributions from a consortium called DANA. The website is active even now, I think. I saw it even last week. It is www.dana.org. I request the observers to make a note of it because you get a lot of contents on neuroaesthetics work dating back to the 1995-97 period. Then we'll see when Natya is practiced or when arts are practiced. Again, when you practice it or somebody observing another person practicing it. We'll come to details later. 10 major benefits. Now, please underline this is for the very young people. That is, growing up people. Mothers, fathers, elders, teachers can definitely make use of it. I tell you with all honesty and humility, I have been able to practice over 60% of it. If the 40% or 30% at least didn't work, it is not my mistake. We'll say environmental problems. We'll just leave like that. It's very important when you practice it. If you practice it properly, there are corrections required in the present day training system also. If possible, we'll come to that or during the discussion if it happens. Then the seventh point discussion will be some of the scientific methods. Because if we keep on saying like this happens, etc., there are people who would like to know how do you say all these things. So some of the methods, techniques used by the researchers in the neuroaesthetic field that will be discussed. So their findings in relation to Natya, concentrating on painting. I said picture painting because it can't be wall painting or window painting, etc. Of course, that is also an art. But when you do a painting like the person who welcomed all of us said, mural, it's a type of painting, all of you know, oil, water, fresco, there are different things, sculpturing, etc., etc. Now, all this is coming under that section. Natya Shastra calls all this by the name Shilpa. Then dancing and acting I have put separately because in Natya Shastra, dancing is rhythmic movements. The performer is not expected to render any subject. It is movement. You can see lot of dance all around, animals and plants all dancing. So these are the topics we are covering and we are going to make a beginning. What is neuroscience? Is the study of, neurology is the study of the nervous system. And I have just given, I hope you can see the mouse pointer moving, the human body with the brain and impossible to trace all this, the spinal cord, the nerves coming out of the spinal cord and brain and the nerves going into all these things. And we are able to live responding to the stimuli from all around us. The study of this is all neurobiology or the neuroscience. And you can see here the 5 sense organs: smell, touch, taste, vision, and audio. That is seeing, listening. I don't have to explain the diagram, you can see it. You would have seen the spots which I am pointing by mouse pointer popping up in the animated slide. And those are the areas where these 5 senses put in their stimuli. And from there, we do not know precisely how all this entire matter, what looks like a mass of toothpaste squeezed out, and that works wonders. And you can see here this diagram where no response is available because the system is switched off. We say it is a condition called anesthesia. You are alive, but nothing is coming in. Even if it is coming in, the brain is not recognizing it. If there are doctors, practicing physicians, surgeons, they will be able to tell us in a much easier, better way. Anyway, I just wanted to know the language part of it. Anesthesia. If you just remove this an and just put an a, or just remove this n from here, you get aesthesia. That means bodha talam. This is bodhamilla, no bodham, right? You are not aware, therefore we can't respond. This is what we use for medical purposes. Of course, we know non-medical experts also use it for their personal purposes. Let us leave that and say God give them good thought patterns, washes away the evil thoughts. So this is the difference. So I just gave you this slide just to tell you that aesthesia is the opposite of anesthesia, and aesthetic or aesthetics is concerned with the dealings at the conscious level, or bodha tala prakriya. And that is the intricate area of the body which never takes rest. Even heart takes a microsecond pause, says the cardiophysiologist, but brain, they have not been able to find taking rest even a microsecond. Okay, so we are just going in with the idea of what is neuro, what is neuroaesthetic, and when you combine the two, you are trying to trace the aesthetic experience in the brain. It's not only in the brain, in certain other parts also. We'll see as the slide proceeds. I'm trying to keep the time that Shashi has given me as far as possible. Now, since having said so much, you know the definition of neuroaesthetics now, but I would like you to know one great leading scientist, Professor Dr. Zamir Zeki. He is in the American university areas. So he says it is an emerging discipline. It focuses on biological basis of aesthetic experience. One branch of neuroaesthetics focuses on the neurological processes that occur while participating in arts, whether as a performer or audience. I would like you to underline it in your mind, performer and audience, or performer and observer. How this happens, we will see. And then Professor Zeki said, I shall therefore define the function of art as being a search for constancies. There are certain studies as to how the brain works. When a picture or a painting is seen, the person will try to make out certain patterns out of it. All this happens in no time. We don't recognize it. And then what is constant between two patterns? What is constant between two patterns and the third pattern? This way, the entire canvas will be screened in no time by the eye, the nerves going from the eyes to the brain, and from the brain giving from that point. It is behind here. I'm avoiding all the technical terms as much as possible. And then the whole brain works. So what comes out? Now, if you analyze this in the Natya pattern, how we can explain this also we'll see. So we go to the third point in the discussion today. Natya and neuroaesthetics, please listen.
Natyam, natyam, tatha ganam, chitram varitrameva cha, patyam, natyam, चित्रं वारित्रमेव च वेदमन्त्रार्थवचनैः समं हेतद्भविष्यति वेदमन्त्रार्थवचनैः समं हेतद्भविष्यति
Okay, the meaning of the prayer or meaning of the sloka is also given there. It is Natya Shastra, chapter 36, the last chapter, slokas 77 to 79. Now it says Patyam, the vocal rendering, Natyam, that is dramatic presentation, Geetam, the music, and Chitram, and Vadya, musical instruments. All these for the performers and the observers or participants is like people who offer the austerities or rituals, like Vedic chanting, puja, etc. You get the same benefit, is what is said. Now, how this happens, we will see. Performers do get the benefit, but how can people who observe also get the benefits? So I'm putting here the concept of mirror neurons. Of course, aesthetics, neuroaesthetics, of course, aesthetics people knew. But when you say neuroaesthetics and mirror neurons, people were wondering what they are. But I think now there are lots of people who know it. If not neuroaesthetic concepts, mirror neurons, many people know it. You can see the picture here. This is something like a cartoon. This is a neuron. It's like a nerve cell. Precisely to say here, a brain cell, like any other cell, but it has got tracks through which messages come in and track through which messages go out. A simple version of it. It's a miniature brain. That's all. Now, what is happening in the brain of one person is mirrored into the brain of another person in the same regions. And a simple example, if you would like to recall, is our day-to-day life experience. If I start yawning from here, I'm sure at least 2-3 people virtually will start yawning. There are so many things. I also want it. I like it. This is all recognizing what is happening in the brain of these souls which we are looking at. If somebody is dancing, somebody is painting, what is happening inside that performer, those who are doing it, do happen in the brain of the observer also. And that was suggested by Guillermo Rizzoli, an Italian scientist who worked on apes, our great ancestral group. He studied on primates by trying to find out what happens in the brain of a monkey called macacus, a variety of monkey, and what happens in a brain when it eats an apple. Of course, you can trace what is happening in the brain by connecting various things and the screen. Now we can do it much more easier. What we saw as wave, you can see it as brain picture itself with modern gadgets. But at that time, he connected and studied the brain. You know, EEG, electroencephalogram, which is normally asked by the neurologist if required to know the health of the brain. Now, he studied and found out the changes, of course, asking the monkey to eat the apple. He traced what is happening in the brain. But a scientist will not stop with that. He saw the monkeys observing the monkey which is eating the apple. And some of the gesticulations, body movements, etc., were similar to what was shown by the monkey that was actually eating the apple. So he connected the same nodes, sensors, the skull of the other monkeys. Maybe 1, 2, 3, etc. would have tried. And he says nearly 80 to 85% of what is happening in the monkey, which really eats, happens in the monkey or monkeys which observe the other one. Now you replace the monkey with the performers, whether it is a painting or sculpture or dance. I know you will have a doubt here. You don't see the painter, but you see the painting. What will happen then? We can think later. I'm just leaving it there. But as far as doing things are concerned, performing arts are concerned, it is easy. And don't you sometimes move your hand, the head, etc. when somebody is singing, and if this song has gone into you, right? And very similar thing is happening here. This is mirroring. I'm not going into so many details of that. I will leave it thinking that you should have something to ask at the end of the session. Now, that has been traced by, maybe many people know now, but when I started off looking into this subject area, it was a great revelation to me, this wonderful personality, an Indian, Tamilian by birth, Velayanur Subramanian Ramachandran. He studies deep into the brain activities. He's a neurologist, basically, maybe neurophysician, neurobiologist, whatever it is. And his videos you can watch, plenty available. Just write Velayanur Subramaniam Ramachandran. You will get, and click videos, you will get plenty. And he is a person who worked on a particular condition called synesthesia. Synesthesia is a condition where two senses sync together. Synesthesia. So esthesia is our conscious level. So it may be the consciousness stimulated through the eye, through the ear, through the nose, tongue, skin, etc. Of course, there are other senses also inside. We are not referring to that. We will only look at what we can see and that has been studied in general. Synesthesia is two senses syncing together. I don't know if I told you last time, people say that if you say it is Monday, they will say it is 1. But that is okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that way you can take. But if you say Wednesday, say that, yes, that is on my right side. Now, what happens is that in some area of learning the days of the week, he would have learned it like this: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, etc. So he or the person appends the knowledge of the word Wednesday or whatever it is to his side. This is a part of spatial intelligence in the multiple intelligence area. I'm giving terms like this to stimulate Shashi and all of you so that we can have another seminar on multiple intelligence if required, because these are all opportunities for me to learn, partially selfish, you can say, because every time you have to prepare to the new audience, we do learn a lot. I mean, that's a lighter part of it. This synesthesia is slightly higher. This is not a disease, it is a condition. But it becomes a disease that needs medical attention if it passes over a certain level and then becomes troublesome to the person himself or herself and to the surroundings. Because if he starts misinterpreting or misunderstanding everything, what is the position from where he says that? He may be a doctor, he may be a minister, he may be a teacher, whatever it is, a parent, one of the parents. It will be misinterpreted and misunderstood by the listener also. At that level, it calls for medical attention. Otherwise, it is easy. Quite a lot what Ramachandran has said about this, how he decided not to treat some of the synesthetic cases and why it is. Please keep it in mind to ask us a question at the end of the session. I'll wait for that answer so that I don't have to elaborate here. Anyway, you can see here the person who executes something and the person observing, their brain scans are given here. I'm not going into technical nuances of the scans, etc. You can see the same areas are lit up. The area of the brain gets lit up. It's a language used by neurobiologists. When you do some work, which area of the brain is lit up? It is actually lighting up. The old way of telling somebody who clicks something later, they say, oh yes, it's a tube light. Because tube light flicks for some time and then comes into brightness. But now we have got LED lights. Before you take your hand off the switch, the light is on. We can also become LED brained individuals from old flickering tube light individual. But sometimes I feel a little bit of flickering is interesting. A little bit of flickering is needed. If everything becomes matter of fact and you say yes, this, that, question, answer, question, next, that becomes too mechanical. That will not be aesthetic at all. See, do you get the happiness of the tube light flickering, and finally coming to light and smiling at you? Would you get the same effect if you put the switch and the light comes? Of course, you're happy that light has come, like wisdom has dawned. But the waiting for that has got its own thrill. Plenty of instances in life. The beauty of waiting to achieve that is more of an aesthetic experience than possessing it. You can think over it. So with this comments on this slide, we are going over to the next one. Okay, now when you say all these things happen, etc., naturally people want material proof. Now we want scientific proof. Now our ancient wisdom came from scientists. But when you say scientist, the picture of the scientist is the one who is working in the material science field, like physics, chemistry, maths, economics, etc., etc. But when you use the word Shastra, this is debatable, I agree, but I have understood this way and I'm convinced about it. The Indian term or the Bharata word, science, Shastra, is that which is being taught by a guru from his experience. He doesn't necessarily prove by providing material proof. There is no methodology explained. It is his experience that is being shared with the Shishyas. And the Shishyas pass it on to the next level. Then you have the Guru Shishya Parampara. We have the mechanical Guru Shishya Parampara even now, physically, yes, having gaps here and there, but the real Guru Shishya Parampara, we say, isn't it, from Paramashiva onwards, through Shankaracharya to Asmadacharya Parampara, Vandeham, to my personal teacher, from all that, I bow in obeisance, is a wonderful, great Indian prayer. We are not ignoring anyone. We are not just being thankful to the person who taught us something recently. How the wisdom came from the Lord through the parampara, through the traditions, and to my guru and into myself, so that I can pass it on to another beginning of a parampara, to my disciples. Every guru feels contented when it is passed on and he sees that being nourished by the next generations. That's the best reward a teacher can ever look forward to or wish to have. Nothing else. Not the amount of fees or not the cajoling or the applauds done. All that is fine at the material level. But at heart, a very real teacher, when I say real teacher, I am only underlining to mean that not the machine that transfers knowledge from the book into somewhere to be dumped in the student. It has to be utilized. Without that, what is the purpose of having any amount of awareness? It's a load. It's a kind of loan that we have taken and we do not know. It's bothersome. It's troublesome if you have knowledge and we don't have anything to do with it. So fill in only what is required is what the Guru says. I remember the great Ramankuti Ashan of our Kathakali Parampara telling his Ashan used to scold the Shishyas when he saw them reading newspaper. People make fun of this, but I'm looking at the spirit of it. Don't read newspaper, etc., etc. All those things will happen. You read something related to Kathakali. See, when you're learning, although you can have your peripheral attention entertained as the brain allows, focused attention is a must. Now, slowly we will see out of the 10 different achievements people get by practicing arts, observing arts. Focusing is one important thing. Without focus, what do we do? You may be an excellent football player and you are given ball and you have lesser opponents, but you have to hit the goal. But if there are no goal posts on either side, where will you hit the ball? You means I also, huh? All of us. So a goal has to be set. Efficiency may be wonderful, but the proficiency is underlined only when the goals are achieved, be it short term or long term. Now, this is a work done by the Diana Consortium report. I've given the picture of the book. That book is with me. I think you can download it even now from the same website, diana.org. You give the title, you should be able to get the book. And what it simply says is that this is proof. Material scientific proof. Material scientific proof, you have to go through a methodology. Whether it is physics, chemistry, biology, you have to have a protocol for your methodology. Unless and until you go through that methodology, the results cannot be approved. That is the science. It may be right or wrong, but for the time being when it is given, like we write at the end of the thesis, that what I have deciphered from my observations belong to this time and this space. Even in science, we write. In physiology, when I submitted the thesis on calcium mobilization in the bone repair, comparing with the shell repair in few other animals of the lower level, we have to say that we collected animals from this area. We referred so many of these books. We discussed with people and we took readings based on the methodology given by the approved scientists. And therefore, this is our data. This is what we observed. This is what we decipher. When the space, time, and all these parameters, the participating parameters change, the results can change. This is what Bharata also says through Natya Shastra, not directly, but through several chapters. This is Lokanukaranam idam Natyam. Natya is imitating the world, but you stylize it to give aesthetic touches. And that tells us that world is not constant. There will be space shift, time shift. Two important frames of references Einstein did give us in the theory of relativity, space and time relationship. I'm not going into that. This is only for the science crazy people, just to give that. So don't compare Shastra with Bhautika Shastra. In the Shastra, there may be Bhautika Shastra. But in the Bhautika Shastra, we need not have people giving opinion from their experience to be accepted. We need not accept. It is not always right to just reject what the visionaries have told us. We are, as I said earlier, the Guru gives the knowledge to us to experiment, to experience what it is. So the entire nature is our laboratory. So you have to work and then understand, then share. Vidya Dhanam is also very important. Like Vidya Dhanam, Vidya Dhanam is also important. You have to impart it. There is no point in keeping it. It will become a load, as I said earlier, unwanted load. Okay. Now, aesthetic perception centers in brain were studied. You can just see the colored areas. Don't worry about the names. So once you know these are the areas where aesthetic senses are understood by the being, you can work on that. So Dana Consortium did a study on school children. Of course, there will be different categories of children in all the classes, the good, the average, and the bad. And the bad is often those who do not score, poor ones. Scoring machines, as I would like to put it. Mark is important, I don't deny that. Not going into a utopian concept at all. Mark is important. But are you getting the mark by happily reproducing and applying what you have learned? Have you learned to learn? Has a teacher taught you how to learn? Then has the teacher taught you how to learn the subject? Have you learned how to learn the subject? Have you learned the subject? Then you should be able to apply it. See, neuro and aesthetics, neurobiology and aesthetic, it is a wonderful application level. We don't claim that the findings so far have solved all the problems. Aesthetics, which is highly subjective, a subject which is highly subjective, how can you find material proof for that? Would it vary from individuals to individuals? It will vary, but there is some commonness because at the neuro correlate level, that means when something is being seen, heard, etc., what happens in the brain, there is a commonness for all normal human beings. And how that qualitatively and quantitatively differ is the individual. That is the individuality, which is by virtue of so many things like the genes, environmental influence, etc., etc. So the children who were called as bad or poor, they were given training in arts and they used painting, vocal music, instrumental music, dancing, and theater. 5 different areas. Of course, you have to find out what type of student that is, who the person whom you are dealing with, what type of a person the student is, and then give the art that is right for the individual. That individual may not know that is the right art. There are ways to find out which art suits a particular person. All of you would have heard what our great scholar Ananta Kantesh Kumaraswamy said. Artist is not special kind of a person. Artist is not special kind of a person. Every individual is special kind of an artist. Every individual is special kind of an artist. No artist is special kind of an individual. Every individual is special kind of an artist. So how many arts are there depends on the number of people available at a given time. That each person, with the help of well-wishers, gurus, etc., can find out the art. And you know, in Indian wisdom, there are 64 arts. Even laying table, keeping things clean. Now, laying table is an art, isn't it? And how you prepare your bed is an art. Shaya, Alankaram, all this we learn when we study heroes and heroines, etc. in the Natya Shastra also. All this is art. How you write, how you keep your book, alasata, laziness, let it be like that, is not a right attitude for people who have a conditioned brain at any given age. For the age, he must be systematic. This is what we call discipline. It's nothing that is enforced. It has to be something that comes from within us. We'll see the list of that benefits. Now, these students who were bad, when given training in various arts, slowly improved. And how do the teachers and parents judge improvement? They started scoring more marks. So naturally, the teacher, along with that, the parents also feel this can't happen. This person would have sneaked something, looked into somebody's paper, or taken somebody's help, which may be on flat called as copied. It happened. They did feel that. And some parents supported the teachers also. See how bad the mental attitude is. Instead of knowing why the student doesn't score and help him. That is what I said. You have to help the person to learn how to learn and then help the person to learn how to learn the subject. So the teachers must learn to teach the students how to learn. Very simple. This is the basic tenet of the science called education, or what you call as pedagogy. There are teachers, you will definitely know it. And I hope you will not disagree with me. Now, the teachers and parents were not told that these bad labeled students are given training, but they slowly improved. So they also wanted to try. They separated the students and made them sit in a separate area so that they can ensure they don't copy. But they scored much better because they were not disturbed by the others. They scored well. Then they said, this is the work that was done. Teaching or experiencing arts. And brain studies were made. The initial brain maps of the so-called bad students were taken, which did differ from the great padipis or learners, as we say, the scorers, that is all. And we know that brain maps do differ. Brain mapping, I'm not going to explain it. You can do that. Scientists know how to do it. And there is difference between learner and non-learner, a person who knows and a person who doesn't know, a person who applies, a person who doesn't apply. All this can be traced. This was traced. Brain mapping was done, and they proved that it showed improvements in the areas where they lacked when they were compared with the brain maps of the so-called good students and also the average students. Average student, nobody is bothered, only the good and the bad. But it is always better to be an average and then decide what is your area and then get on to it later. I'm reminded of telling you a small anecdote. Dr. C.V. Raman, I don't have to tell you who it is, maths, physics, etc. Right? He was asked by a very, very humble and serious parent that, sir, I want to send my child to you to learn mathematics. What should be his take up level of mathematics if you have to accept him as a student? Now, we are quite aware of plenty of entrance interviews, etc., even into the kindergarten classes. What the interviewer can make out, I still do not know. The interviewee may be enjoying or crying or just ignoring it. 3-year-old child, where the brain starts developing to prune the cells, and it takes 10 years or more to get it set to understand what is happening around. Those who have gone through the educational psychology, you know how it is. Anyway, that is not our subject area for today. So these people who were taught arts, people who were watching arts also improved. Now we can see here, they have all these achievements and they score well in examination. I had not put this part of this mother and child I had put, but I had not put this one. A mother is telling you the achievement has to be measured in terms of numerical scores also. Even if you are giving grades, you have to give numerical marks and then convert it into grades. That is how it is done. But a very good well-wisher of mine said, Mr. Unnikrishnan, you are talking all this educational system, arts can help, arts will develop, etc., etc. But will it help the child to score marks? I said, I told you, Dana experimentation did work on that, and they did see the scoring also gets elevated. He says, then put that into your slide. Since then, I started putting that, and now I'm carrying it on. But he says, when you say you can get marks, the market value of what you say increases. I accepted it. When I say market value, or when he said market value, I understood this way, and I think he also meant the same thing. The acceptance rate. Not that you can sell the slide and get money at the simple level. Awareness of this going into people. You know that you can get it in terms of marks also. You don't have to specifically work for that. So this is the work done by Dana Consortium. Just all these are just introductions. All these 7 points listed under contents are all simply the points. Introduction. Okay. Now we will look into the 10 major skills which not only Dana Consortium, but many other developmental psychologists and neurobiologists did agree to watch, that people get the benefits when they deal with arts. I said deal with arts because it may be one is doing it, one is learning it, one is observing it. But there will be some differences among these three, which we'll see. I said that will be kept as a question to be answered at the end. You may have the doubt. I'm just telling you, I also had the doubt, and we have an answer for that. We'll leave it there. By the time I said all these things, you would have read all these 10, right? Creativity. Now, what is creativity is something that comes from your mind, and the knowledge you have acquired processes that you're yearning to manifest it into a work. It is not abstract. Even what we call as abstract art is not abstract as far as the creator. I would say synthesizer rather than creator, because creation is a faculty given only to the ultimate, Ishara. That is what we believe. That also can be answered. Ishara, Devam, Bhagavan are not same, can also be answered, leaving it there. So creativity is actually taking out what is in your mind, aspiration, hope, whatever it is, and you convert it into something. Even when people get married, unless you get a child, for normal people, the accomplishment is not 100%. So that creation, something urging from within, and your knowledge is put into that or synced with that, and that is converted into a manifestation. Brahma is a creator, and wonder, Albhuda Rasam. The Devada for Albhuda Rasam is Brahma. That means there is nothing more wonderful, nothing more awesome than the creation itself. So that is creation. Then we come to confidence. I've tried to use the cartoons and simple pictures as far as possible so that we don't append it to any personal looks or anything of that sort. Simple drawings. Confidence. Now we can see nobody lacks confidence. But if you assign a work, how many people will do it the way they agreed to do it? Be it students, be it a husband of a wife, wife of a husband, parent, teacher, children, anything. You assign a work. When you assign a work, that person is supposed to go through the assignment. There is a process. Through that process, the person has to achieve a result. This is true in experimentation, isn't it? Even in sciences, material sciences too. So you have to experience it either with the material proof or at least to convince yourself, at least to make yourself realize that what your guru said is true from my experience. So how I should do this work? If I did this work and I got this work differs from the first work by this manner. So what procedure change I have to make to reach the goal? This assertion is confidence. You say, oh, I can do it, is an expression of confidence. But is that confidence? The answer is necessarily not. Then comes problem solving. This is a big problem to be solved immediately, especially in the recent days. People are not able to face problems. Either they destroy the problem without solving it, or run away from the problem and destroy themselves. Both are bad, isn't it? The problem remains unsolved for you and for others. So when you have identified a problem, that is why in the Natya Shastra lessons I say the Dikpalakas identified the problem. In the Treta Yuga, they observed people are going astray from their normal dharma, the righteousness. Kshatriya is doing Vaishya dharma, Vaishya is doing Brahmana dharma, all mixing up, social chaos. So they observed this and they said the problem is they are not able to understand the Vedas. Because time from Krita Yuga to Treta Yuga, when it descended, all matter, forms of matter in the universe, or at least on Earth, began to depreciate in quality. Right? This depreciation came to such a level in Treta Yuga. Forget about what happened in Dwapara Yuga and what we are experiencing now in Kali Yuga. Okay, if we can't understand certain things, no problem. It is the question of time. I am not responsible. Easy way out, isn't it? But Natya Veda was made with the intention that timely changes must be made in its execution patterns according to the shift in time. But the benefit of doing it shall not change. What is the benefit? One benefit we said, Dukhartanam, Shamartanam, Shokartanam, Tapasvinam. Vishrandi Jananam Kale Natyamedad Bhavishyati. Then another sloka said, Pathyam Natyam Tadha Ganam Chitram Vaditram Evacha Veda Mantrartha Vachanai Samam Hyedad Bhavishyati. That should not change. Narayana Prashardi Master, you know, a great scholar, Sanskrit linguist, the one who gave us a beautiful translation in Malayalam of Bharata's Natya Shastra, or Abhinava Gupta's interpretation of Natya Shastra. In a seminar, he was asked by one young dance teacher that, sir, you say you will get all this benefit. Dharmam, Artham, Yashas, everything you will get. Fame, everything you will get. But I have learned this dancing. I have a diploma in dancing. You ask my friends who are sitting at the back. We are all suffering. We are not getting money. Without money, what can we do? This I did mention when I gave this lecture to Every Creations also. Some of you would have attended, so please forgive me. This is for people who have not heard this anecdote, but it's a very touching anecdote. He said, my dear young man, Kutti, okay, my dear young man, every work you do, as I said earlier, there is a correct procedure. If the procedure goes wrong, and if you do not know that it has gone wrong, the result will definitely be wrong, or it will show the deficiency. So if you didn't get the benefit, there was some error. Go to your guru, ask, where did I make the mistake? Then he also said, you must have the right gurus. You must identify the right gurus. For that, you have to be open and go to the place where you get the knowledge. And I hope I'm not shooting the time. It is 8:40. Anyway, I'll try to give you one more small story or incident. This is not to be something that should point out a skillful person in the wrong way, but it's a very interesting story, which I think the sixth standard maths teacher told us when I was a student at the Tali UP school in Kozhikode. After that, I learned like that. He said, who is good? Anyone can be a guru. Who gives you the knowledge at the right time? Why Lord Krishna is considered as one of the greatest of gurus? He gave Arjuna the wisdom that is required at that time. Not that it is given at any time. Or you will not accept it when it is given at the wrong time, off time. This is a carpenter. When a carpenter goes scraping the surface of the wood. In Malayalam, we say chinderida. There is a type of shaver type. It's called a chindera uli. With that, you scrape on the surface and even it. He puts this, putting the log on his side, and one push of this instrument, the wooden log also keeps moving. So after 1 hour or so, very few surfacing was done, very little surfacing was done, but the wood and the carpenter kept moving around the place. So he was fed up, but he was not able to get an answer. How to keep the wood steady when I'm moving this equipment over it? So it happened that in a house, after a feast, maybe a birthday feast or whatever it is, Parannal Sadhya or whatever it is, people were throwing the plantain leaves, vada ila, throwing that with little bit of debris in that. Of course, in the ancient days, hardly anything would be left in the or on the leaves. Now we can see plenty there. We can have another feast. Sorry to say that it is sad. People just throwing away food. If you don't want, at least don't go for it. At least don't take it or take only enough. Okay, these are all side pep talks, but that is not the matter. After the feast, the people who had the feast were throwing out the leaves. And you know, in the old village areas, dogs come and start licking. And this carpenter observed while he was washing his hand without sanitizer at that time. Okay, now he saw the dog licking and the leaf started moving. Immediately, the dog kept one of its front feet on the leaf and started licking. It is said it was from that demonstration by a dog. The carpenter learned to put one leg on the log or to sit on the log and then do the work so that the surfacing is done well and the wooden log wouldn't move from there. Shouldn't we say that the dog is a guru as far as that Vidya transference is concerned? Yes. Look at Mother Nature. Lot of things the Mother Nature keeps exposing. Not a teacher confined to a school. That is why we say the laboratory for an ideal scientist is the nature herself. Nature is female because it is capable of carrying a womb. It is capable of rearing the knowledge child, the wisdom child inside, and delivering it to the world. Right? So that is very important. The problem solving has to be very clearly understood. What is the problem? I didn't have that problem earlier. Now the problem is that what difference did bring the problem in? I spoke so much about problem solving because every day my friend, the psychiatrist, Dr. C.J. John of Medical Trust Hospital, writes about people committing suicide, children committing suicide, children becoming arrogant at home with classes going on, online classes, etc., etc. Online classes need a lot of correction. Let that be there. But let us be happy that something is happening so that there is no total vacuum in the teaching and learning field. The teachers and the students, both of them must get engaged. Otherwise, things will run out of hand. One vacation is enough. 15 days vacation is enough to take us out of our discipline of learning and teaching. So every day you have to keep on keeping a touch with whatever is assigned to you in terms of learning and teaching. Now this happens because people run away from problems and commit suicide because they don't identify the problem. If you identify the problem, there is no problem that doesn't have a solution, right? You see, I can see here, if I travel around 3.5 kilometers from where I stay, under the bridge, the metro, plenty of people sleeping there, no mask, no social distancing, very happily adhering to each other, preparing food and sleeping there. Next day morning they continue. Same people you can day. Police also are not going towards them. Nobody is worrying, so they are not troubled. They carry on. This is not a wrong message at this juncture when all the governments tell us to follow protocols. We have to follow protocols. But those are people, they have no other way. They have no house. They have to live around, walking around. How it happened, it's a different thing, but they have to live. Life, how to live is the question. That question needs an answer. They find an answer to that. If somebody is taking away from there, they should be happy. At least majority of them, they're being looked after. At least you get food. I'm seeing here in the Cochin area itself, people who are working in temples, but not the regular employees. They were getting food and some money, some clothes, etc. Somebody is giving books and so on. We all do that. All these ended. We are trying to reach them, but it's difficult to spot them. We do not know where they have gone. If we nothing to eat, clothes, problem, books, giving money to or looking after children, everything is a problem. Now, when all the problems come together, how to solve it? You have to take one by one and keep solving it. Now you see what is happening. Are we all that serious about the protocols? I doubt very much. I do agree that I have shifted a lot. Of course, since we are doing activities like this, I'm more confined to home. But I did go out today evening also. I just went around the temple and came back. Otherwise, if it is not for this assignment, I would have come around 9:30 so that my mother and wife can peacefully watch their favorite screen shows. They are happy. I'm also happy. If I sit here, I get disturbed and they also get disturbed. So what is the problem? You avoid that problem by doing a creative activity. We meet, of course, with mask, keeping the social distance, washing hands, etc. But we don't overwash, right? We started talking about so many things. There are artists, there are physicians, Ayurveda, allopathy, homeopathy, etc. We just talk. We don't talk much about the pandemic at all. That plenty of people are talking knowingly and unknowingly, imaginatively, etc. So we are leaving that. WHO's first plate in the PowerPoint when the epidemic was identified as a pandemic, that start in such a way that you just make only a small reading of today's news about the pandemic and then leave it because it can create fear. I don't know if you have seen, some of us together did make a picture called Hariti to show how the fear of the disease becomes a big disease for the person and how he was taken out by the help of the physician. Okay, so that is an important thing. Problem solving, we have to teach, learn ourselves and teach our friends, our fellows, our children especially. Major time, at least now, must be spent in telling the children that don't worry about the online classes and what you understand or not. We understand it is not a physical class where the teachers can see you individually and solve your problem. But do ask us, we will discuss with the teacher and we will try to solve. Please understand the teachers also have got it like a lightning. One day they had to do it. Of course, the idea was introduced 20 years back. Many of them did not take it seriously. But now the time came. How many things are coming out? Artists are performing every day. Those who didn't have time to show a mudra or sing a line or give a color sketch, they are all giving free all these things now because the inner urge. That is a wonderful way of solving a problem of isolation, negativism, etc. That is why we say art can wash away the everyday dust falling on the soul. We are washing the brain with arts. Perseverance, don't have to tell you, it is not putting in physical labor to the extent of tiring and killing oneself. You take a task. If you take up a task, when you take up a task, you should know, you should be able to go through it at least more than 50%. So that by the time you learn how to take help, don't drop it down. If you can't push it beyond that mountain, don't leave your hand because that will roll down, squeezing you down. Wait there, don't strain further. Get people to help you. Hercules and the lazy Carter, all the old students know it. God came to help Hercules. Hercules came to help the Carter to pull the wheels out of the mud. But he said, only if you try, I can come and help you. That is important. So perseverance is doing the work, spending only the due amount of energy and reaching a place where you can be taken up, you can be helped by others to go further. Next, I said we are coming to focus. That picture is something what we are normally using to give it to students to analyze their attention, etc. This is a simple one. I'm asking you to look at a tree and then asking you, what do you find? One person told me, you say, sir, you're asking us to look at the tree, then you are asking us what we are seeing. You see a tree. But some people said, there is only one red leaf. Others would say there are plenty of dark leaves or black leaves. So if the eye went onto that red area by virtue of the color contrast, that was meant for you to come to that point. The creator of that art did mean that. And that is a creativity, keeping a focus. Now, you know, when you perform on a stage, when you make pictures on canvas or with camera, there is a 1/3 rule. You divide vertically the plane into 3 and also horizontally from your point to the other point. And the attention points are always not right center, but where these 1/3 cross. Those are the attention centers. Good choreographers keep the attention seeking characters in those points. If somebody have not heard of this, please do try it. It's very interesting. So this is focus. Now you come to non-verbal communication. Always we don't have to make noise, isn't it? That is why I showed our panelists little earlier. We could have had this session going on, myself keeping quiet, but myself keeping on talking on the screen. Earlier video recorded, embedded onto the PowerPoint and giving the recording to the organizers to run it. And I can sit here, keep watching, but at the end we can discuss. That is non-verbal communication for the present for me, because I have created something and handed over, like the painter does a painting or a sculpturist doing a sculptor doing a sculpture and leaving it. But it talks a lot of the artist, it talks a lot of the art. And when you start enjoying it, you create something out of that enjoyment also. It is that enjoyment we actually call the rasa aswadana, or aswadana leading to experience of the rasa. Okay, so non-verbal communication is important, and it is coming up a little fast, I think. People are not talking to each other. It's all sending smileys and various icons from here and there. Good, it's okay, but human beings are marked out from rest of the animals by a very specific faculty, that we are able to have articulated speech. Don't completely do away with that. Keep that ready and do the silent communication also. Silence speaks better, silence is gold, etc. are wonderful. But if words are to be heard, silence cannot replace that, right? It is a function of hearing, one of the sense organ that is required. Or he will make a different tone for the sound that you have asked him to hear by himself or herself. That should not happen. Artists will have to keep targets. When you are doing gestures, now you can see somebody telling, I'm surprised, I'm confused, I'm shocked, embarrassed, then outraged, etc. Without that, this is what we do in Natya. It is acting, but sometimes you act in real life also, not realizing that it is a part of reality, but we are processed that way. We can do it. Gesticulations are required. When you come to art, it becomes more stylized. Then you have to use specific gestures, etc. To Kathakali artists or Kudiyatam artists and some of the dancers will be able to keep on discussing when they're traveling in train, aircraft, etc. So that the other person or people around will not know. But be careful. People sitting there, at least one may be one who is conversant better than we are in the art of gesticulation. So we have to be careful. Okay. Now, receiving constructive feedback. You have to do that. If a critical review comes, don't say that he doesn't know anything. What does he know about what I do? No. He has also looked at it. And as I said, the observer's brain also takes something what is happening in your brain. If he gets a wrong input, it has come from us. So we need correction. Probably he doesn't know how to tell in the language we prefer, but we, at least artists, those who have the artistic experience, must know he is telling from his angle, and I must try to understand where my weakness is and then compensate for that. It's very important. Collaboration, this is important. Nobody can do any work all by oneself. So you have to take it. Teamwork always brings out better product than individual thinking and producing something. This is very simple. Dedication, it is my appeal also to the entire humanity. Please be dedicated. Whatever work you undertake, commit yourself to that and offer the best to the person who entrusted or the people who entrusted you the work with. Every minister working there are people who are elected by, each minister is elected by people. So he owes something or she owes something. Dedicate to that. I just take an example because that is more easier to understand. Even an artist, you are called to make a presentation of your art, be it Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, Kuchipudi, Kathak, or whatever it is. They want to have the experience of your skill. So something that happens in your brain will be transferred into their brain also by mirror neuron theory, the basis of neuroaesthetics. So be committed to that. The mistake we make can turn into a mistake in another person. Like I said, teachers and artists have to be very careful. If we make a mistake or if we make a good input, the result will be seen sometimes after years. For that also, there is an example. If time permits and if you have the question, ask me what is an example to say that our work will be seen in terms of result only after years, sometimes difficult to solve then. Okay. When you have all this, you have the accountability also. If you can have all the other faculties working in you, dedication. If you are dedicated, you will be accountable. If somebody gives you a work, you have to do that. And if you couldn't exactly get to the point expected, you must be able to say, I could not complete this. Like I say, I have been trying to solve the problem of the light reflecting from the glass. All experts come and say that you do this, you don't move your head, you look down, etc. That is not possible when I am talking, especially a person who is more body kinesthetic as far as I am concerned. I'm restricting now. I keep throwing my limbs around without hurting the surroundings, including people, animals, plants, etc. Okay. So accountability is more. This is a slide which I normally take more time to explain, because these are all, please understand, the faculties that can develop in an individual by experiencing art as a trainee, a performer, or an observer. Okay. Then this is quick. I just want you to look at it to understand we are not making stories from imagination. These are authentic pictures. These are copyrighted pictures. I had to ask permission and get their permission, and they say that you can download at this particular time of this particular pixel ratio, etc. We get like that. Not all, but some of these. If it is to be very authentic, it's better that you get that way. This I got many from Dana Consortium and from the people who were referred to by the Dana Consortium. Although you can see and download all these, small mistakes here and there, you will not know if somebody has made a picture like this and put it. So these are perfect scans, and if you go up the net, you get physical resources, attested papers with proper registered numbers of the laboratory, scientists, etc., so that we can believe it. So these are 3 scans showing us what happens in the brain when one is painting. And please tell in your mind when somebody is observing also when I tell all these. Then when it is music and when it is dancing. Dancing involves seeing and listening to music also. So it should give you the benefit of 1 and 2 together. Of course, 1 by alone can also give you benefit of the second and the third slides. So that way, music, when you look at the brain activity area, it's a limited area. That doesn't mean that brain can get only small benefit by music. If something happens at a particular point, what happens in the other areas? That is how the learning styles improved of the students whom I referred earlier. If you sing or if you play an instrument, the part of the brain that is being lit up, being brought into work by that activity, is connected to so many other areas, which will be learning the language, which will be learning mathematics, etc., etc. Anyway, this is one scan just to tell you that these are observed by scientists. Now, this is the Dana study, how exactly the impact of art learning can be traced. So learning by doing and learning by observation, the achievements are nearly same. Won't be exactly same, I told you, it can be discussed later. Then just by this, the skills they gave, the achievement in general are skill improvement in reading, verbal rendering, that is use of right words, right pronunciation, grammar, etc., etc. Then numerical calculations. So you have the logical intelligence, verbal intelligence, all accelerated by this. These are 2 which are very important as far as the student is concerned. Now, how that is understood? By using a technique called the diffusion tensor imaging tractography. Don't worry about it. It's a technique which can show which area of the brain is lit up, which area of the brain is working, and that is why you are getting the impact like reading skill improves, verbal skill improves, etc. This can be applied to other skills also. So this is one technology. Then we come to functional MRI for studies. This I am rushing for 2 reasons. I've given you the necessary area of neuroaesthetics. Now I am trying to prove that there are scientists who work in this area and they have given us proof. Plus the time factor also I have to take into consideration. So this is a graph that shows certain brain studies, functional MRI, what is happening in the brain when you're doing certain things. So person while dancing, person watching, A person who is untrained, also washing, you get similar areas of the brain, nearly similar areas of the brain being lit up. That is another technique. Then electromyogram. That means using the electrical technology or electronic, I won't say electrical technology, the electrical field, etc., to study muscle movements. Myo is muscle, gram is the picture, the graph, how it is being made. The gram is the instrument which makes the graph, right? To study changes during movements. So brain, your torso, limbs, etc., when they move on a pad, it's a dance pad. On the pad, when the person moves, your movements, whether it is structured movements or unstructured movements, you can trace on the computer screen using a software. Then ECG and functional MRI to study emotions. Have a heart, we always say, isn't it? We don't say have a brain because heart carries the brain. The simple cartoon there tells us that. And you see here, heart under anger, and when the heart is appreciating something. Then brain, when it is under anger, not acting real, but you can simulate it and get the results closer to this different subject. And then brain, which is appreciating. Very simple. In this, I'm putting the mouse pointer. You see the heart shows irregular working when one is under anger. Now, all these emotion, neuroaesthetics also has got a chemical side of it. Your hormones, mental balance, etc. I'm not touching that because the biochemistry of aesthetics. We will leave it there as a different subject. Now, when you appreciate something, enjoy uh, what do you say, as a dissolved moment, like Wordsworth said in the Daffodils. A host of golden daffodils, when I see a vacant or pensive mood, that is a delight that is felt. Then his heart would have shown this very synchronized, soft waves, telling the observer that his heart is working wonderfully well, very healthy. And you can see the blood flow is highly restricted only to the essential area when it is under anger, and it is concentrating in an area where the emotions are processed more. I'm not telling you the names, it is in that area. But the blood flow is much more even and widespread in the necessary areas when the person is calm and in a happy mood. And you say, you can say it's a negative field. Under negative field, this is under positive field. Heart and brain, therefore have a heart. Your brain can only function if our heart tells what the requirement of the individual is. Now we come to the range of brain parts involved in different emotions. Now this is love in brain, which I have given the picture from Natya also as, without telling, you should be able to make out what it is. We will be going through Navarasas. Love in brain, it is to be equated to Sringara. Love in the English term need not mean Sringara. It basis may not be Rati also, but the basic tendency of all living being in one portion of the personality is Rati. That is a yearning to get something. What I don't have, I must get from where it is. This fundamental thing, psychologists call as the libido, etc. Okay. Now the Natya Shastra says it has a color, green color. It is produced by using the musical note Madhyama and Panchama. Then the development is slow. Sringaram develops slowly. That is why in Kathakali, Padinya Padam, the lyrical rendering and the way you do the Aranga Vritti, the stage business, is very slow. To build that, it takes time. That's what it is shown. And you can see here, as I said, this is maternal love and this is romantic love. There is difference in the areas which are being stimulated or lit up when it is a maternal love or romantic love. And it can have plenty of variations. So what is being shown here is one model through which we get trained to move our facial parts. That is all. So this is a scan that shows the feeling can be detected in the brain. Then I just want you to look at it. That is all. Variations in the brain when laughter occurs, hasa, which can be hasya also. This is what we show, but this is only one way of showing it. Plenty of other variations are there, and at least here you can see various variations being spotted. So the areas lit up when we are smiling, when you are laughing, when it is a laughter, when it is a loud laughter, when it is contentious laughter, etc. There are various areas developed. And what happens in that area is related to other areas also. So when you are making fun of somebody, if you don't have any ill feeling at heart, the other person also enjoys, fine. Otherwise, even a smile in a wrong place can give a wrong signal. And please note, it has a silver color. All this has got connotative meanings, which we will not discuss in this subject area. When you come to aesthetics, more of aesthetics, you have to know that. The notes are Madhyama and Panchama, and it goes at medium speed. This is all like general study. It can be fast also. Laughter can come out fast and it can last long. In summers, others come very fast and it goes off also very quick. All this depends. Then when the brain is experiencing, when the person is experiencing unhappiness, sad, it can be compassion, it can be feeling sorry. So it can be karunam and also anukamba. Anukamba is that you sympathize and empathize. The other is that you are feeling unhappy. Oh, this happened. That is all, right? And it has got Kapoda Varna, which is gray and brown put together. This should benefit the artist, I suppose. Ga and Ni are the musical notes, and it goes slow. It's not a spelling mistake. It doesn't get fit into this, so I just put it that way. I didn't want to waste time. That is all. So it is slow. And sadness also comes slowly. Suddenly bursting also can occur. So what we are telling is the basic nature of an average person. It can vary according to so many parameters. Then comes the rage or anger, which we have already seen in the heart and brain together. And the color, note, speed are all given. It is fast. The anger might build up slowly inside, but its expression is not slow. And that is why the padams in which there are battle scenes, you may use the same raga to express compassion or karunam, and you may use the same raga to show the rage. Simple example for those who know Kathakali, the point where the Brahmin having the 9 children dead, bringing the dead body of the child to Krishna and Arjuna. The raga in which the Brahmana's pada is sung is nearly the same as that is sung for Bhima, who is looking for Dushasana on the battlefield, Raudra Bhima. But the pacing is done in such a way that the swaras are controlled, where these swaras, the sa, ri, especially ri, comes much more powerfully. That is how the speed is controlled with the rhythm. So it is not the raga alone, how the notes are moved through the pattern, the scale of rhythm is also very important in determining the feel. Then comes valor, that is Veera, and there are different ways of locating it. Veera can be due to several reasons. We say Vibhava, Alambana Vibhava, the primary reason for an emotion to develop. Can be anything through vision, hearing, anything. But there can be so many reasons. Accordingly, these things will vary. And I have got only the scans from people who have studied it under a general condition. Why this particular point was lit up, why this particular color developed in that area, etc., depends upon reading that paper in detail, which is not demand at this juncture. I just want you to know that this happens. Then comes the brain parts. The fear is more than wonder, because scientists say that there is an element of wonder behind every other expression which are labeled, or emotion which are labeled. But fear and wonder were studied together, or they were not able to separate it at that moment when I got this. Recent scans also show similarly the same thing. The color is black, Dhaivadam is the note, and it is slow, medium to fast. So when the fear is more than surprise, these are the areas that show the marking in the scan. The scan can be one single type scan or a mix-up of scans according to the methodology the scientists developed. And here comes aversion or bewilsome. The names are given like amygdala, hippocampus, insula, etc., etc. Don't worry about this. If there are people who are aware of this, you enjoy it. Others, just forget it. So these are the areas lit up. Now, what happens when this scan is seen? Whether it is a positive one or negative one, only the experts can say. But something detectable will happen in the brain. Then comes more wonder than fear. So the areas lit up are different. We can put both the scans together and compare it also. The color is yellow, notes are here, and generally it is fast. Wonder should come fast. That is how it. That way, the first you get wondered, then you try to realize what happened. Then the emotion can change. Malayalis will understand the yellow color. Kannu manjalichu poyi, albudam. That is one expression. If you translate it into English, the fun of it or the essence of it is lost. So I'm not doing it. Then, when it is a peaceful one, when a person is completely in a tranquil condition, which is very, very rare, and these are the areas lit up. And what happened? Okay. Anyway, you have seen that. So in the absolute peace, you will get that area lit up. With all this, I have told you now what exactly is brain study doing as an applied contribution to aesthetics. So we can't deal with any type of art as taken for granted. Let us be serious as much as possible. Serious means enjoy doing it and internalize it and share it with people. Now, with the next slide, we can wind up the session, which is a prayer that tells the last part of the 36th chapter. It tells that if you do Natya as said in the Natya Shastra with permission to make changes by scholars as time and space change, Kinjanya, if you do like that, Sasyapurna Bhavadu Vasumati, the earth will be covered with greenery. Nashta Durbhiksha Rogan, poverty and diseases will go off. Shandar Go Brahmananam, all animals and good-minded, positive people will experience peace. And more than that, Bhavadu Narapati, Padu Pratyam Samagram, an apt king, an apt ruler will come and the entire earth will be looked after well. So we are moving over to that. And with this, I thank all of you, Shashi, the organizers, everyone, right, for having listened to this. I will not be speaking after the next slide. We will just close that with a prayer, and please keep your eyes open. Don't keep the eyes closed. Open eye prayer is good. I think one of my students in the group study, C.P.Unnikrishnan, is here. She is used to that sort of meditation. Okay.
एवं नाट्यप्रयोगे बहुविधिविहितम् कर्मशास्त्रं प्रणीतम् नोक्तं यच्चास्त्रलोकाद् अनुकृतिकरणात् संविभाव्यं विधिज्ञैः नोक्तं यच्चास्त्रलोकात् अनुकृतिकरणात् संविभाव्यं विधिज्ञैः किञ्चान्यत् तस्य पूर्णा भवतु वसुमती नष्टदुर्भिक्षरोगा शान्तिर्गो ब्राह्मणानां भवतु नरपति पातु पृथ्वीं समग्रा शान्तिर्गो ब्राह्मणानां भवतु नरपति पातु पृथ्वीं समग्रा.
Organizers, shall I cut this slide?
Yes, Dr. Unnikrishnan, you can stop it. Are you ready to take the questions, Doctor?
Yes, yes. You start asking. I'll just drink water and come back. It's here.
Sure, Doctor.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Attendees, please raise your hands and your name will be called, and kindly proceed with the questions.
Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
You start. I can hear.
Yes, sir. Jayashree ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes.
Doctor, in mentally challenged individuals, we see strong inclination towards creative fields and doing well too. Can you please elaborate on that?
Mentally challenged people get what is
In
it?
mentally challenged individuals, we see a strong inclination towards creative fields.
Yes,
and,
yes.
and they're doing well too. Can you please elaborate on that?
Okay. See, they are more closer to raw people, right? This is my interpretation from the angle of having taught children for about 39 years. Year is not very important, what I could gather, right? And what Natyashastra and neuroaesthetics says. They are not distracted by so many parameters from around. So they are able to focus better. Their energy spent for peripheral attention. Brain has got generally two types of attention in the working principle. It can have a peripheral attention. It can have a focused attention also. Like you read a book and listen to music, or you know what is happening around, but at the same time you focus. But this division of labor definitely demands some amount of energy being set apart for that physical function. But for creative work, you need more concentration. It is the urge from within. And that urge from within, as I said earlier, is being manifested. So less distraction, better is the identity of the urge of the individual, and he puts his physical powers or the mental, psychic energy, etc., into the manifestation of what he wants. That is how they become more creative, or they show better inclination to creativity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Unnikrishnan.
Yes. Namaskar. Yes, namaskar. Okay. Yes, I think I did show the slide where exactly art practice, be it music or painting or dancing, whatever it is, how it is showing certain areas of the brain lit up. When you say lit up means that area of the brain is receiving signals and processing something when that art is being experienced, either doing or observed. Now, whether that would be positive or negative depends upon how the art is handled. This is why we say, you're a musician, I suppose, isn't it? Why we should not waver too much from the tracks given by our gurus as far as rendering a raga is concerned, or the time during which you have to render a raga. I do admit all these are relative, changeable according to place, time, etc. But there is some tenet as to the use of a raga, use of a tala, etc. It is important as far as theatre is concerned in rendering the lyrics in the right time, in the right mode to create the right emotion. If that is the intention, definitely that part of the brain which is working in the performer by way of the mirror neuron theory must work in the listener or observer also. You can have any of these art put into this pattern, in this method, and that person's brain getting the same areas lit up in the human brain. But let me tell you one thing, since you have asked for it. In the human beings, it is not very much similar as you can find in the lower animals like apes. Like I said, Dr. Rizalai, so the monkey is showing around 85% of similarity between the one who actually eats and one who is observing the other one which is eating. But as they have no conditions, see, they are very, very clear as far as nature is concerned. They have no filter in their mind. We have so many filters. If I am coming to listen to you singing, it's a Satish, isn't it? Am I right? Oh, some other name is in. Okay, now I'll say that he is not all that good or he is wonderful. I go with this preconceived notion. Then what happens in your brain will not happen in my brain because the floor I have already changed. So whatever you give, it will only fall into that pattern, right? So if you have a spherical hollow brick and pour water into that, the water will become spherical or half spherical or whatever it is, hemispherical. But if you have made a cube, the water will be like a cube. So what is coming from there may be right. But if the ground preparation is not ready, that is why in stylized art, we have to have some amount of learning, right? To enjoy Kathakali, to enjoy classical music, then you need some amount of training for that also. Some of you get trained and then go into that. Some of you get attracted to some peripheral part of it, get interested, then go into it and then learn, right? Now, if you ask me, I got into Kathakali not by knowing Kathakali. At the age of 4, my father used to take me to the nearby temples. He is from a village, and we see it. And we see colorful things making noise and running here and there, etc. So as a child, we got attached to that. When I say we were 3 or 4 of us going to the temple. Then it became a sort of a practice. During that period, when it comes, we have to go to the temple. So even in the absence of others to accompany us, we go there. We just go near the Kathakali stage. Now after some time, why is it like this? What is it like this? Started asking. Then maybe Ishvara Anugraham also, that we felt like understanding it more, then felt like learning it, then performing it. I hope I have answered your question. If not, please do.
Sangeeta?
Good evening, sir.
Yes,
Mirror neuron theory says the events in the brain of the performer is mirrored to the brain of the observer.
yes,
Aesthetics is a highly subjective subject. Therefore, would the feel of such events be same in the observer also?
yes. That is why I answered to the previous artist. It cannot be very much as if you would observe in the animals. Animals means closer to human beings, the world of apes. It is a conditioning. So it can be different. the parameters that control are so many. See, one person who is singing the same raga, same song, or same painting being repeated, or same gestures being shown, or whatever it is. If you do it in the morning and do it in the evening, you yourself will feel a difference, isn't it? This is why certain time slots are given. If you see the 27th chapter of Natya Shastra, Siddhi Vyanjagam, the four vrittis, the mental activity, verbal activity, body activity, exaggerated martial activity, when during the day you have to show this in the Natya is specified. Because there is some connection with the biological clock for the human beings. Every individual has got biological clock, but we bother about it because we are humans, at least expected to be. Okay. Now that rhythm will make some change. That is why for raga there is time. For a particular type of natya there is time. I do not know whether for painting there is some time given, but painters paint at certain particular hours during a day. That I know. It's a kind of rhythm that they have built in. So answer to your question is, it is mirrored in, but as I said earlier, if the mirror to reflect that what is coming from the other area has got distortions, the image will be distorted. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sashi sir,
Yes.
can you please proceed?
Unnikrishnan sir,
Yes.
wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. On behalf of Chitra Sobanam and the entire team, we extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Dr. C.P.Unnikrishnan sir for taking this time off from his busy schedule and gracing the occasion with his presence. Dear sir, we express our deep gratitude for your valuable insight on neuroaesthetics. We are very sure that the audience enjoyed it as much as we did. We would like to thank our audience for their presence and cooperation for making this show grand success. Last but not least, we thank the team who played a key role in making this webinar grand success. Thank you, and good night.
Katiyalola.